Hey there, it's Justin Hampton coming at you from the sunny Florida Keys for another CompTool Tuesday. Um, so, in case you don't know, I am the founder of Compensation Tool. We are a market pricing and benchmarking solution that also has the most real-time live salary data. So, we do these casual conversations about once a week, every Tuesday, hence the name CompTool Tuesdays. And really, what we want to do is keep these as fairly conversational, fairly casual discussions around all things related to compensation. So, today, what we're going to talk about is really kind of based on an article or a post I had earlier this week about uh, the importance of communicating compensation programs. And really, I think that this is oftentimes one of the things that doesn't get enough love because I think that a lot of folks, such as myself, that are in the compensation industry, are really focused on numbers, and we have so many numbers available to us that it becomes really easy to kind of focus on that data and make decisions based on the data. But that's really just a part of what our job should be. Again, whenever I go into a meeting, I always tell managers and HR business partners and other folks that my job is not to make sure that you are being paid, the same as what a spreadsheet says. It's to make sure we are paying folks competitively. And sometimes those two things aren't the same. And so, while we want to go through and make sure that we have market competitive rates, uh, one thing that's really important is making sure our employees and our managers understand where our comp philosophy came from, where the numbers are being generated from, because you can have the most complex, precise, accurate, every outlying scenario accounted for in your comp program. But if you don't have that well communicated, you're not going to get the kind of buy-in that you need from your employees or from your managers or your executive team. So I think really one of the most critical things to do is make sure that you are communicating towards your employees and your managers your comp program and comp philosophy. And so there was a study several years ago that was done by Meyer that really asked, you know, how often and where are you communicating your compensation programs for? And it was a really large number of clients that were, I think it was about 45%, they were either communicating annually or communicating during the merit cycle. And of course, the merit cycle is the right time to have those conversations to really kind of reinforce, a pay for performance culture. But that's not real. The idea of only having those conversations once or twice a year probably isn't going to drive the behavior or drive that culture that really understands compensation. And I know that we have seen a lot of organizations struggling with the challenges of retaining employees right now. In fact, that we are finding that more companies, through some surveys we've run, more companies are having bigger struggles retaining than recruiting employees. And retaining employees is considerably easier and a lot more cost effective than it is to go out and recruit new talent. So, one of the ways that we can do that is to make sure that employees understand what the compensation program looks like and why they are being paid, what they're being paid. And one of the things I really like to do is make sure that you are getting executive leadership and executive support from your compensation program. Hopefully they understand it, they can explain it, and they can support the numbers that you are preparing and putting out towards your employees. But one of the things I think is really important to discuss with employees is if you target the market median, that means that 50% of organizations are going to pay more than you. Now, it also means 50% are going to pay less, but that is what your target rate of pay is somewhere in the middle, well, exactly in the middle. And I think a lot of times there are challenges from line managers, from recruiters, from other folks in the space that say, well, we can't pay competitively because X, Y, and Z companies are paying more than we are. And that's actually going to be very common. We are going to see that when our comp philosophy is to pay at the market median. And so I think as long as you have these ranges that support paying upwards towards the 75th, 90th, whatever percent you decide is appropriate, it allows you to keep maintaining that competitive stance. But employees and managers have to understand how to put employees within the range where the pay in that range is when it's related to tenure, to performance, to projects, to where the market is, a number of different things. And what I have found is really kind of having discussions around a practical approach of where do salary surveys come from? How do we take those surveys and apply those to our particular roles? Those are the things that have really enabled me as a compensation practitioner to have better conversations and really encourage and improve our organization's understanding of pay and how the comp philosophy works. We actually would host these meetings with typically with managers on a quarterly or better basis. It would be quarterly at minimum, but oftentimes there would be other programs we'd be rolling out to have conversations with them. We would also meet with line managers or parts of the business when we were doing job family reviews to use those as opportunities to explain what is a job family review, how do we do it, why do we do it, what does it mean to the employee, and why should they expect their pay would change X, Y, or Z% or not change at all. And really setting those expectations was one of the most key and beneficial things we had done. Now, I also think it's very important to explain and try to remove some of that black box that market data can be for several employees. And I have found that the biggest questions are oftentimes around, did you compare this company? Did you compare this company? Did you compare this company? Did you compare ourselves to other competitors that as an employee or a manager, we are feeling pain from? And that's one of the most important things too, is to understand the pain that your managers or your HR partners are feeling or your recruiters are feeling when it comes to retaining and recruiting talent. If you can understand that and speak towards that empathetically, but still kind of through that lens of compensation, that's going to give you a much better position to really be able to speak effectively and communicate the compensation programs for. Because if we don't think that employees talk about pay, they certainly do. And if we don't believe that employees are going to come up with their own conclusions around how pay is decided, they most certainly are. And oftentimes, if they don't understand how pay is driven or where the market data is being taken from, they're going to come up with their own conclusions. And oftentimes, those employees are going to believe that they are being paid less than what is fair or less than what is market competitive because of what they're seeing in publicly available data sets such as job postings. And that's a really interesting thing that we have to consider, because when you look at what we are basing our pay on, our pay is being based upon the entire market. So all of the people that that are in the role, all of the people that are happy in the role, people that are in high demand roles, and the job seekers as well. But really what we're competing with is only that very small tip of those job seekers, which oftentimes carries a premium to be competitive. So if we're looking at that, if we're taking all these things into consideration, what our employees are saying, what they're hearing, and then how does that relate back to our compensation philosophy and our compensation programs, being able to speak towards those things with frequency and through an empathetic lens is going to put us in a much better position to have those conversations with employees and give us on our organization a much better footing with making sure that employees feel and understand like they are being paid fairly. So again, that's a quick casual conversation just around the importance of communicating compensation programs. I am Justin Hampton, the founder of the Compensation Tool, and Squirrel, our real-time market data solution. And this has been another CompTool Tuesday. I hope you join us next week when we will be at World at Work. I'll actually be speaking this day. It's at 1:45. So hopefully you can find me there, or we'll see you here at another CompTool Tuesday next week.